I'm Nikki. I am the Crafty Weaver, and I have been up here on the beautiful east coast of the Outer Hebrides for quite a while. I am a trained Harris Tweed Weaver. I have done that for 15 years, and about 10 years ago I started up my business, the Crafty Weaver, making things out of wool generally, using Harris Tweed, hand-dyed yarns, using the islands as inspiration for what I do in every walk of life. So we moved to the island back in 2009. My mum and sister and me moved, and quite quickly I saw a weaving course advertised, and I'd heard about Harris Tweed a little bit before we moved up here, because I used to work for a shoe company and they'd used it as part of one of their footwear collections. And I never thought I'd ever be able to learn how to weave it. I thought it was something you had to do historically and be passed down from generations. So when I saw the course advertised, I was really keen to give it a go. I'd only recently taught myself to knit as well, so I was interested in yarn and fibre arts in general. So I managed to get on the course. I was lucky enough to get a place on the course back in the beginning of 2010. It was a 3-month course, and after that 3 months we had to weave a test piece, and it was approved by the mill, and that was the start of my weaving journey. You were then on your own to weave for one of the mills, and I've been doing that, as I say, 15 years. I started out just weaving. That was my main job, doing quite a lot of hours, but I absolutely loved it, and I still do. And then my hands needed something to do, and eating chocolate all day, every day wasn't the best idea. So as I taught myself to knit, I decided I'd use some of the little bits of waste yarn from weaving, because there's always little bits left over, to knit little sheep and cows, to advertise locally in some of the shops, and they are what started my craft business. I don't remember when that started. It sort of naturally just, I started making more and more of them, using up the yarn, and they are sort of my mascots, my absolute still love that I love making them, and it uses up the bits of yarn that get left over that would normally get thrown away with weaving, but I'm still lucky enough that I still get to weave part-time as well. So it means I can incorporate my love of knitting, my love of creating, my love of designing, my love of weaving and using Harris Tweed all in my business, which also means I can go out at lunchtime and walk on the beaches here as well without having to ask anyone, which is nice. So we, as a family, had been looking to move away from the southwest of England, originally from between Bristol and Bath, for quite a while. We'd looked at Wales, we'd looked at Fort William, because we'd holidayed there a lot, and I think we were watching, I think it might have been Countryfile, it might have been one of the other sort of evening programmes, and they did a 2-part special on the Outer Hebrides, and we saw the 2-part special. We booked a holiday here for a week over up towards Ness, and the day that before we left to come back, or to go back home, my mum put an offer in on the house. And that was us deciding that we were going to move up to the Outer Hebrides. That was back in 2009, and I haven't regretted a second of it. I absolutely love it up here. I have always loved the outdoors. Hill walking has been a passion of mine since I was about 15, and I love walking on the beaches, and I don't even like going back to visit down in England anymore. I'm quite happy not getting the ferry and staying here. I find the islands very inspiring, whether it's the weather, like we have today, the sunshine, or whether it's a big storm and you get the moody colours and the house shakes in the wind, up to a point. I don't always like that. And we're very lucky here that we have a huge range of colours, and one thing I absolutely love is colours. Whether it's the colours of the Harris Tweed that I'm weaving or using in my work that reflect the coasts and the sheep and the houses up here, or whether it's when I'm dyeing my yarn and I've looking at the glistening gold flecks of the sand, or the beautiful aqua seas, or even when those seas are incredibly dark grey and stormy. And the colours of the hills here, down on Harris especially, you get the rusty colour of the bracken, and then you get the beautiful sort of bright colours of the moss and the lichens. So we're lucky that we've got a lot to inspire us here. It's definitely the colours that do it for me. Working with fibre and dyeing yarn, all of my yarns are dyed with, inspired by a picture that I have taken here on the Hebrides. So whether it's out walking with the dogs on the beach or the coasts or the moors, so each one is inspired by it, but every batch of yarn comes out a little bit different. Like every time you look at a view, it's a little bit different. I also like the sort of sustainability here on the island. I like to beach comb and pick up beach treasure, sea glass and pottery, and even just lovely pieces of driftwood that maybe haven't got a use yet, but maybe one day will. And I turn the pieces of pottery and sea glass into buttons and stitch markers for knitting and crochet. So yeah, and I also like to be able to combine the colours here. So using the different colours of Harris Tweed and knitting, using the yarn, I think it just ties everything together on the island. I feel very lucky to have been able to move here. Personally, it's given me the freedom to be outdoors a lot. I love being outdoors in any weather. I've got a decent waterproof jacket, so just being able to get out and walk with the dogs and hear the sea and watch the eagles and the deer out on the moors, which I didn't have where I used to live. I used to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to and from work each day, up and down motorways and busyness, which has never really been me. So I feel very fortunate that I now call this home. And professionally, it has given me everything, because it's allowed me to become self-employed, first through the weaving, which is something that I obviously can't do anywhere else. And then that gave me the confidence and the ability to then start my own business, where I've been able to create items and sell in shops locally around the island. A few on the mainland now have got my products. I have, during the summer season, I've got my honesty box, which is a little shed which sits outside my house, and it's full of small crafts that I make, purses, makeup bags, knitting yarn, and it's self-service. I'm not there, you just turn up and open the door, and if you like what you see inside, you can buy it and head on your way. And there's quite a few of those around the island now, so it's lovely to be a part of that community as well, of creators being able to make different things and have it available just outside the house. The honesty box doesn't go out until middle of March usually, and it comes back in again in October, because it's not built for the Hebridean winters. It would be in Matchwood if it was. It's also allowed me professionally to learn to manage my time, which is something which can be quite difficult when you're self-employed. It's very easy to work all the time, but when you love what you do, it's very easy to work all the time. But I can, if it's a nice day, I can just decide I'm not going to work today, and I can go out and enjoy the island. It's also allowed me to design my own designs for knitting, combining Harris Tweed and knitwear, which is something I've recently just started doing with a new cardigan design. So using lovely Harris Tweed in all sorts of colours. I'm very much a person that likes colours, so I do all sorts of different colours, and then knitting the sleeves and the hem and the collar with the yarn that's left over from weaving Harris Tweed. So it's not only unique designs, unique colour combinations, but it's also sustainable, because it's using up bits that would normally go to waste with the yarn. And then I put a little beach treasure button on it, because everything needs beach treasure buttons on it as far as I'm concerned. So moving here back in 2009, I thought I'd just get a job in a shop. I didn't expect to be self-employed weaver for one of the mills and also run my own business. And it's only a year or so ago that I actually kind of considered it a business. It was just me creating things before that. So yeah, I'm incredibly lucky, and hopefully it will continue for a very long time. So this is in my loom shed now. This is the loom I weave Harris Tweed on, and this is third shed that it's been in since I've lived here. It was over on point for 2 sheds as I've moved around over there. And I weave for the mill. I'm not an independent weaver, so I don't get to pick what tweeds I weave. I come into the shed one morning and there will be work waiting for me on the floor, which has been dropped off by Shawbost Mill, and I do the work that I'm asked to do, the pattern that I'm asked to do, and the colours that I'm asked to do. And then once each length is done, the mill come and pick it back up and finish it. It has to get washed and dried and pressed and have its stamp put on it until it's been back to the mill and finished. It's not classed as Harris Tweed, it has to be inspected. And once that's all done, it then goes off to whoever ordered it through the mill. So this is more like a part-time job of mine, but I'm still self-employed. So it's a unique way of working. And it's lovely to be involved in the history of Harris Tweed. It's been made on the island for many years. I'm going to admit I don't remember the dates. But it's part of island life. You would have walked around villages years ago and heard looms clattering away during the winter when crofting wasn't done as much. It used to be you croft in the summer and then you wove in the winter, and the fabric's come a long way since it was originally done. It was done with quite coarse fibres, so it was very warm, but it was also quite itchy years ago. And there's a few stories of when people were children, they remember wearing Harris Tweed to school and it just being unbearably itchy. But it's come a long way since then, and it's now used in high fashion on catwalks. It's used for clothing and accessories and shoes and homewares. So it's got a huge range now, and I'm lucky that I never know what colour's coming in the shed. I don't have to decide. Sometimes I'll get a beautiful sort of grey that matches the winter sky, and sometimes I'll get a really bright tartan. So it's just really nice having that choice. I also, from my shed, I do take part in Open Studios Hebrides, which is a group of local artists, photographers, ceramics, anybody really, art crafts, that open up their studio for a couple of weekends each year and just showcase what we do. You can go around the islands and you can see different working environments, different crafts being done. You get to meet the maker, which is always nice, especially when many of us work in a shed on our own for a good proportion of the year. So that's also really nice to be involved in. So it's a multi-use loom shed that I've got here, but it's nice, often very cold, but it's very nice to be able to just come in here and work. I can work on an evening if I've been out all day, or I can work till midnight if I want to get something done, or I can just come in here and dye yarn or plan the next project that I've got going on. And we're very lucky here that we have a huge range of colours, and one thing I absolutely love is colours. Whether it's the colours of the Harris Tweed that I'm weaving or using in my work that reflect the coasts and the sheep and the houses up here, or whether it's when I'm dyeing my yarn and I'm looking at the glistening gold flecks of the sand, or the beautiful aqua seas, or even when those seas are incredibly dark grey and stormy.